Hello, I will now be reading Chapter 6 of Part 2 of A Sacred Sorrow by Michael Card. New light on an incomplete equation. Job is contained in a collection called the Wisdom Writings, Ketuvim, along with Psalms, Ecclesiastes, Proverbs, and the Song of Solomon. The Hebrew Bible includes several more books in this section, including Lamentations, Esther, Daniel, Ezra, Nehemiah, and 1st and 2nd Chronicles. These so-called wisdom writings appear to have come together during a time of transition in Israel. The shift was not so much political or even religious as it was existential. I use the term existential not to describe a philosophical point of view, existentialism, for indeed there exists no such single unified philosophical position. I use the term in its purest sense, of describing something having to do with existence at its most basic level. From the beginning, Israel derived her understanding of the world on what scholars like Walter Brueggemann call Torah obedience. This is the basic understanding that if I keep the Torah, God will bless me. In fact, he's obliged to do so on the basis of his own covenant. If I break any of his laws, he, by necessity, must punish me, as well as my descendants. Exodus 34:7. This simple formula gave shape and meaning to Israel's world for centuries, and indeed is still operative in Judaism and, unfortunately, in many Christian denominations as well. At some point in the history of Israel, no one knows just when, questions began to surface to which this simple formula seemed to provide no answers. People like Job discovered that even when they thought they had been righteous, they still got sick and suffered losses. Israel sometimes felt this tension on a national level as well, most notably in the time of Jeremiah, when Babylonian sinners conquered God's people, the Jews. These questions, which confounded the centuries-old wisdom embodied in Torah obedience, eventually found a voice in the wisdom writings. From this we see that the collection is not as much about wisdom as it is the perceived inadequacy of wisdom. At the heart of it all, we see God preparing his people for a deeper understanding of himself and his hesed. They will be invited to see that, though they had consistently broken the covenant, God nonetheless remained faithful and loving. It is more than they could have ever dreamed of or hoped for. This progressive revelation will find its fullest expression when he will send his Son, the wisdom of God, to do for us what we could never have done for ourselves. He perfectly kept all the provisions of the covenant we had continually broken. He is the perfect high priest, who fulfills it all by sacrificing himself, our spotless Passover lamb. Elsewhere in the wisdom writings, Solomon, the writer of Ecclesiastes, bemoans the thought that though he was the wisest man on earth, wisdom was not enough. The Psalms, which we shall see begin with a hymn to Torah obedience, quickly pass into a series of laments, which give voice to the growing frustration that there are inconsistencies in the fallen world, to which Torah obedience provides no answer. Those who want a simple formula for their lives will not find it there. This tension in the existential world of Israel is nowhere better seen than in the book of Job. Here is a man whose entire life was lived according to Torah obedience. The narrator declares Job righteous in the opening chapter of the book. God himself pronounces Job blameless in chapter 1, verse 8. The opening scenes to show Job scrupulously offering sacrifices for imagined sins that his children might have committed. Eventually, God himself declares that there is no one else on earth like Job when it comes to personal righteousness. If anyone should be a beneficiary of the ancient equation, it should be Job. Into this simple, well-ordered world enters the accuser. He twists and tangles the covenant promise of the Torah into a vile accusation. Job, he hisses at God, only loves you because he benefits from the equation. He is obedient because he gets something out of the deal. Take away the blessings, and he will fold like a house of cards and curse you to your face. God, who knows the heart of his gentle servant Job, knows that he is not loved by Job merely for the blessings or the benefits. So he allows a painful mystery to begin. He is in your hands, the father sighs, and Job's ordeal and ours begins. The book does not represent some sort of test whereby God might discover whether Job will be faithful or not. Clearly, his omniscience knew Job would never let go. Job loves everything, loses everything, his possessions, his children, and eventually his health. At this point, to die would paradoxically be a blessing to him, but death is mysteriously denied him. The man of Torah obedience is forced to a painful place, wherein he realizes that, though he might not have seen it by any other means, indeed he does love God for himself and not simply as the source of all his blessings. The reason to love is not found on the other side of the equal sign of the equation. It is found in inequitable, untranslatable chesed. Without the pain, Job might never realized either the depth nor the dimension of this kind of relationship with God, and perhaps never would we. Enter Job's friends, the stewards of the old equation. One of the unexplainable mysteries of the book to me is their sympathetic, week-long, silent weeping session with him. This wordless compassion leads us to expect more from them than we eventually see. Though from slightly different perspectives, they all represent the incomplete equation of retributive justice. In the face of Job's experience, there can only be one inescapable conclusion. Job has done something dreadfully wrong to deserve such suffering. Eliphaz says, "What innocent man ever perished?" Conclusion, Job must not be innocent. As a consequence, Job has found himself clearly outside the protective hand of God. Bildad says, "If you are blameless and upright, he will protect you." Surely God does not despise the blameless. He gives no support to evildoers. Conclusion, Job must not be upright. Zophar says, "If there is iniquity in you, remove it." If says it all. If only Job would remove the sin from his own life, the suffering might all be over. The missing piece of the equation will reveal that it takes more to deal with sin. Even young Elihu, from whom we hope for so much, flatly says, "He pays a man according to his actions." See 34:11, 36:11. Their one-dimensional conclusions are inescapable. Job is in the process of perishing for something he had done. There is no mystery, only the cold, hard reality of retribution. In the course of this long theological exchange with his friends, the fatal fallacy of the old equation becomes blindingly clear. Is it within any of us to remove the sin from our own lives and live out a righteousness that could satisfy God's perfection? In the book of Job, we see that God is in the process of revealing the rest of the equation. According to Elihu, God pays man for being good, which echoes alarmingly the accuser's accusation in Genesis 1:9. According to Satan, it was not love, but only the payment of blessings that motivated Job's obedience. Through his allegation, we see Satan's attempt to negate and steal Job's love away from God. The heart of the complete equation, which only Job's suffering could have given him the arithmetic for, involves a God no one could have possibly imagined before, a God who pays the price for sin with himself. How does Job maintain his sanity, his ancient faith, through all the turmoil? By what means is he able to hold on to his hope, to his God, while the first notes of the song of this impossible completed equation begin to resonate. The answer by means of the counterpoint of another song, the Song of Lament. Lament keeps the door open, keeps Job on the dance floor with God till the music is over, until the two tunes are resolved. The frustrated outpouring allows him to stay in the ring, while everyone on the sidelines shouts at him to throw in the towel. By the end of the book, I always imagine Job and God standing with their arms around each other like a couple of weary boxers. Job's jaw is swollen, one of his eyes is black. He must keep one arm around his opponent in order to remain upright. But he has a grin on his bloody face that comes from the knowledge that it was never about winning the fight. It had absolutely nothing to do with being right. It was always only about being faithful. Job had survived the prescribed number of bouts. He had finished his race. His reward? Does he get his children back? No, he gets God back. After this momentous confrontation with God, we do not hear Job repenting for his sin as much as for his old misconceptions about God. His three friends are charged by God of not speaking the truth about me. Their sentence, to ask Job to pray for them to the God he knows. They will receive forgiveness as a result of the accomplishments of their personal righteousness, but solely because of the forgiveness embodied in Job's prayer and God's hesed. The God of the completed equation is a God who is beyond all equations. He is wild and impossible and totally other, unknowable. That is what chapters 38 through 42 in Job are all about. But he is also gentle beyond our imagining and available beyond our wildest dreams. He would someday dwell inside us. The unknowable one, whose name could not be uttered, will someday have a face and a name, and he will be called by that name by all those who love him. And with their own eyes they will look upon the light of that face. Underneath all the blood and sweat of the book of Job lies the exhilaration of this future moment. I know that my Redeemer lives, and in the end he will stand upon the earth, and after my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh I will see God. I myself will see him with my own eyes.